trøje angreb på den måde her. Det vidner lidt om, hvor god form de præcis kodeskytterne de er. Lægger også mærke til, at Davis der faktisk er. Og så er det faktisk célèbres, som der prøver på at lukke hullet.
Célèbres, som er skiftet fra T-Mobile til Lotto nede bag, men der er altså stadigvæk det her hul. 2 lige præcis Godot, som rytter, hvor den ene altså er Sanchez, Alberto Contador, tror jeg det er. Og så Fansumerang. Og som man kan se her, så er det en stigning, den er 3 km lang, gennemsnit på 7,6, enkelte steder på cirka 14%. Og her, altså hvor vi har Alberto Contador som første mand ind over Hill. Down at the finishing line and facing up to the last climb of the day, Bobridge was still clear with Klimov, but the field were closing in rapidly now. Surprisingly, the field was not disintegrating as we all thought it would. Alan Davis was soon back in the group. It had been a hard chase. And onto the climb for the second time, Matthew Lloyd, having swept by Bobridge and Klimov, was now leading the race, being joined there by David Moncoutier of the French Cofidis team. Evans was in much more serious mood. Here he was trying to get clear with Wesley Sulzberger. And now was his big moment. It was all or nothing on this last major mountain of this year's Santos Tour Down Under. And Evans was in no mood to take anybody with him. His third place a couple of days ago on the stage into Stirling was an indication that he already had some very good early season form. But the way he rode in front of a massive crowd here was an indication that he wasn't just trying to show his World Champions jersey off to the crowd, he was actually trying to win this race. Evans was now trying to improve in his overall position. He was only seconds behind the overall leader, Andre Greipel, and he's been joined now by 2 big danger men in black. Alessandro Valverde in second place and Jose Luis Sanchez, the man who's won this race in the when Ben Herman unleashed his strength. He was quickly followed by Richie Ford and he was policed by Jack Bobridge. Bobridge, a teammate of Cameron Meyer. Over the top goes Hermans, keeping the pressure on. They have 15 seconds. Now lining up is Simon Gerrans, the Aussie champion in third place. Can Greenleaf pull off the first big win here in the Grand Tour? Rogers is giving his all now as Boyce and Morgan unhitches at the back. He looks set to lose time. Gerrans has gone. Valverde is after him. He won't catch Gerrans. Simon Gerrans drives home towards the line. He might actually. We still have to go left around this corner. Valverde has got him on the edge here. This was the story. Alessandro Valverde takes it on the line. He beats Simon Gerrans on the line.
Getting at the whole of Simon Gerrans, and look at Slachter has left Geraint Thomas behind, and he's up and over Simon Gerrans.
They've all hit Geraint Thomas. Tom Slachter has contacted. This is the man who's going for the race lead. The man who's the best young rider. Slachter is going. Gerrans has gone on to his back wheel, but he might be spoiling the fun for the Australian as we now head up toward the line. The face of Tom Slachter, and Gerrans goes. Gerrans wants this. The first Australian victory of the week, and it comes on Australia Day. Simon Gerrans, the last year's winner, grits his teeth as he comes off this bend. This is the corner. Come on, Simon.
Simon Gerrans.
Simon Gerrans gets it on the line.
Fourth ladies remaining 2 companions over the top, taking maximum points in the King of the Mountains competition. BMC and Evans made their intentions clear as soon as they hit the final ascent of Willunga. Brent Bookwalter, the last rider to up the pace, with Evans soon pressing on himself to try and seal the overall title. However, Evans found himself up against an extremely strong Richie Porte, who attacked the overall leader, sailing steadily into the distance. Behind, things weren't looking good for Simon Gerrans, with Evans up the road, but together with Ulissi and Lamprey, they steadily made up time, eventually catching the BMC rider. Up front, Richie Porte forged on, earning an extremely well-deserved stage victory in front of his home fans. Ulissi got the better of Gerrans to claim second place in the 6-second time bonus, but all eyes were on the time gap to the race leader. Evans crossed the line in 6th place, 4 seconds behind the Aussie champion, but with a 4-second time bonus, he'd lost the lead by a single second.
Towards a packed Willunga, the hill lay straight ahead. It was goodbye to Jack from Greg Henderson. His day was done as well. One rider versing the rest now. Jack Bowbridge wearing the white jersey as leader of the Subaru King of the Mountain. The pace was being set. Richie Ford seemed almost to be smiling.
Everybody waited to see who would be the first man to move, and the first man to make that move in the black and blue jersey of Team Sky was Richie Ford, but he was covered very, very quickly by number 1, Cadell Evans.
And following Cadell Evans, it was Rowan Dennis, his young team leader. These riders are now locked together like limpets. Ford was giving his best shot. In the end, he cracked Cadell Evans, but Rowan Dennis was still up for the fight. He quickly shot across to join the back wheel of Ford.
Well, he managed to close down the gap, but Richie Ford knew this was the most important moment for him, and he jumped one more time. At this time, he put the young South Australian, Rowan Dennis, into difficulty, but then it was just a question of what would the clock say as he crossed the line in first place.
Deja vu, a win alone as he did a year ago, but this time the clock was of the utmost importance. As Ford hits the line, he looks over his shoulder, and then the clock was starting. Riders. As they came into Willunga for the last time before they faced the climb itself, they were now going straight up the 3.5-kilometre climb of the old Willunga Hill. Halfway up it, and Reinhard Janssen van Rensburg tried a move. As he continued towards the summit and to claim the points in the first category Subaru King of the Mountains point, he would shortly pass under the finish banner, but not for another 22 kilometres. The field behind, rather strangely, had not really attacked the race teammate Geraint Thomas. They were trying to get the Colombian rider up there first, Sergei Enau. Then came a very brave move from Lucas Hamilton, as the gifted young climber tried to ride and give the Unique SA a perfect present 25 years of being in being. He was joined, but the whole field were quickly up alongside, and then Richie Ford, who has never lost on this climb for the past 2 years, was now trying to make it 3 wins in a row. Giving it everything he had, he was quickly joined by Sergio Enau and Michael Woods, the 2 riders who had topped the Corkscrew Hill first and second a few days ago. It looked as though it was curtains, but no, it wasn't, because somewhere Richie Ford found the legs to leave them both and go for gold again. Deja vu, a 3rd year on. Richie Ford getting his first win for his new team at BMC, while 6 seconds later, Enau was coming home as well. To face his teammates, but not for long. Once on the climb of the old Willunga Hill, it was pressure now, and only the big favourites could survive at the front. Touch of wheels, Jay McCartney, very lucky indeed to clip the back wheel of Sergio Enau. It cost him though, he lost his rhythm, and Richie Ford had spotted it all. Ford putting in an attack and finished literally 1.5 kilometres away. Sergio Enau tried to follow, Esteban Chavez tried to follow, they couldn't do it. Ford, the king of Willunga, the last 3 years, he's never been beaten, now racing away with it again.
Just looking over his shoulder once to check and make sure as he went over the King of the Mountains spot in first position that the gap between him and the rest was safe as he swung into the finishing straight.
In front of an enormous crowd for the 4th year in a row, Ford was the champion on the line. He'd never done it before though, wearing the race leader's jersey. Literally every second counted.
Once again, applied some pressure.
Again, King of the Mountains in this race last year was driving at the front and breaking up the breakaway, while the main field is being led by Bahrain Merida.
A really difficult pace, hoping to set something up for his teammate Richie Ford later on, but the pace was too high for the overnight leader and the world champion Peter Sagan, wearing number 11.
They swept up everybody when they started the final climb, and now the pacemaking being set with just over 1 kilometre out from home, just as he's done for the last 4 years. Richie Ford launched an attack, but Jay McCarthy knew he would attack right there and jumped on his wheel.
But the recipe that Richie Ford has shown over the last few years, whenever he's attacked here, it's not the first attack that proves fatal. For a lot of these, very often the second.
Great climbers can hit the attackers twice, and this is exactly what Ford was doing. He tried again, another acceleration, and this time Jay McCarthy could not follow. 1 kilometre to go, and Richie Ford was doing what he does every time he comes to the Santos Tour Down Under, and that's win the climb of Willunga Hill. He was now about to win it for the 5th year in a row, but it would be the clock that would give the answer as to whether he would win an ochre jersey.
pushed on, trying to claim the points on behalf of his teammate Jason Lee, but it wasn't to be, because on the charge, Team Sky, Kelly Elisonda with Walt Pools, they were off the front as they crested the Willunga Hill for the first time.
This is where young Kenny Ellison decided to give it another go. He broke clear and then awaited the arrival of the team captain, Walt Pools. Pools made contact, but then came a move by the man known as the King of Willunga, Richie Port, unbeaten here for the past 5 years. Amazing move.
The King of Willunga was not ready to relinquish his crown. Under the kilometre, Michael Woods was chasing Walt Pools, tacked on in the wheel, but Richie Port was not done with them yet.
Port needed too many seconds to win this race overall, but look over his shoulder and he was heading for his 6th win in as many years at the top of this climb. Then the clock would start. A 10-second win bonus was his. He still needed more. Second over the line though was Walt Pools, and in 3rd place, happy with the result. Small bonus for Darryl Impey, and the result, he was to go back to back in the Santos Tour Down Under. Hence the signal to the sky.
Certainly wouldn't be before Joey Roscoff claimed the points he needed to secure the polka dot jersey. Behind, Chris Harper was hauling the GC favourites as Luke Rowe dropped back to assist his Ineos teammates. But disaster for the Ochre jersey, Darryl Impey losing ground with 2 kilometres still to run. And with Richie Port looking as lively as ever, his lead was fading fast. Antoine Tolhoek had drawn Simon Yates and Dylan van Baarle along, but another glance behind and Port was looking to press on again. Up front, Sora had company in the form of Bruno Amaral and Matt Holmes, all three looking at each other, and further down the road to see who might be about to join them. Port and Yates were tearing past the remnants of the break, Yates able to hang on until the symbolic 1 kilometre banner, where Port really hits the afterburners. Then came the textbook second kick with 500 metres to go, and he'd opened up the wheel on Storer. This looked like the winning move, but he wasn't banking on the plucky Matt Holmes, who put in a massive dig to sling himself over the top of Storer and onto the wheel of Port. For the first time in 7 years, he wasn't alone by the top, and Holmes had more in the tank, rounding the Tasmanian on the bend to the finish and powering onto the line. This was the moment the King was dethroned. All hail Matt Holmes, what a way to win your first World Tour stage on debut. Well, the streak may be over, but a smile from the Tasmanian, as he'd done more than enough to claim the 2nd Ochre jersey of his career.